the second I got off birth control, I felt a million times better. Like I can't even
Immediately?
immediately the
Wow.
same way people when I've heard people describe like getting implants taken out of like when I woke up, I immediately like my eyes were clearer.
Wow.
And getting off of birth control was the same thing. I was like, "Oh, this is what it feels like to be me." Like it feels like
Yes.
coming home
Yeah.
to yourself. I can't explain it, but I get messages all the time from women that are like, "I got off birth control and like I woke up happy today."
That is so sad.
It
So
it makes me wanna
it's
cry. It's
so
really
sad.
sad.
Okay, let's talk about the birth control for a second. I know that I asked you a question and we're not totally finishing it. We'll go back to your health story, but let's talk about the birth control because what you said, how you described that you got on birth control when you were 15, basically for no
Yeah.
reason. Me too. I was 17. Almost all my friends. Now, maybe some of them had some kind of reason or they were told it was a reason at the
Yeah.
time for me. And sorry, related bros out there. Like this is really a related gal heavy episode. But so I think I had mono when I was 17. And so not great, but it happens. And so I think I missed like 2 periods or something because I was sick and
Yeah.
that's what happens. But my doctor acted like this was a really big concern. This was a problem. I'm 17
Yeah.
years old. I didn't have a period twice in a row. You need to get on birth control to regulate your period. That's what we're told. Regulate your period.
Yeah.
And I was the same way. Everyone was on birth control. Like there
Yeah.
were people, okay, this is, and again, if my dad and my brother are listening to this, they're not going to like this. But like there were people who got on birth control because like they didn't want to be on their period for spring
Yes.
break or something. And so they would go on birth control to know when their period was going to be. And so you're presented birth control as a teenager. Like this is a harmless thing. You should just get on it and it'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
And so I didn't see it as a big deal. I don't think my mom saw it as a huge deal because she just didn't know. She
Yeah.
just didn't know. And when you have the doctor telling you
You believe
this
him.
is the healthy right thing to do, and then you're scared to get off of it because you're like, am I going to get acne? Is my period going to be messed up? And so
Mhm.
I did the same thing. I went through, probably 3 or 4 different kinds until also I was 21, 22, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So many other women have gone through that.
This is such a common like story.
Insane.
Yeah. And so, okay, birth control. There's so many different kinds, and I'm going to address basically none of them are good. I used to be on the fence, like, oh, you should do what's best for you. And obviously, you should. But I don't think any woman needs to be on birth control for any reason.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't regulate anything. That's the biggest thing is, oh, it's going to fix your period. It's going to regulate your period. You don't get a period on birth control. It's not a real period. It's a withdrawal bleed from withdrawing from these fake hormones. So, fake progesterone, fake estrogen, it's all fake. They're all exogenous hormones. And the way that they work is by basically putting your body in almost like an either like a postmenopausal state or like some people compare it to pregnancy. So you're not ovulating. And it also works by basically like thickening the uterine lining so that even if by some chance you got pregnant, nothing can implant.
Mm.
And so there's different forms. The non-hormonal birth control, copper IUD. Copper toxicity is a big issue. Copper can increase estrogen and really mess things up. But with the copper IUD, yes, it's non-hormonal, right? So people are like, it's great. There's no hormones. No. The way that it works is by irritating, basically inflaming your uterus. So it's inserted into your uterus. It inflames your uterus. And they say it's how it works because nothing can implant. You could still have an egg be fertilized every single month, and it just doesn't implant.
Yeah.
No
Which
one
is an
talks about that.
ethical and moral problem for
And
those of us who
yes,
believe that
yeah,
life starts at fertilization,
yeah,
not implantation. A lot of people don't realize that. And that is true about the IUD. Some people think that the IUD is different than the pill in that, but it's all doing the same thing.
exactly. And also, what they found is that inflammation doesn't stay localized. So I've heard from women, they were like, the copper IUD was the worst one for me.
Ugh.
Most painful periods, like most heavy cramp, like just terrible.
Well, it's a foreign object in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just weird,
Yeah.
creepy. And then birth control, you're supposed to take it every single day, but you can only get pregnant 6 days out of every cycle. 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so why are we taking birth control every single day to prevent something that can only happen maximum 6 days?
Yeah.
Like I speak to women who are in their 30s and they're like, what? I thought I could get pregnant every day. Like,
Yeah.
I just thought I was more fertile when I'm ovulating.
Yeah.
No,
No, you
it's just 6
literally
days.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just think that birth control, no woman needs to be on it.
So why do you think that so many of us were put on it? Do you just think that these doctors thought that they were helping us out because they just assumed that we were all sexually active when we weren't?
I feel like it's so multifaceted.
That's true.
And what it comes down to, in my opinion, I think women are sold a lie that birth control is empowering and birth control is liberating. I think the root of it assumes that women are too dumb to understand their own fertility and their own hormones and to like take control of it. So they're like, we're just going to give you this and you can go do whatever you want now.
Yeah.
And you're going to be so empowered. It's going to be so great. And you're fine. Don't worry about the side effects. Don't worry about the short term or long term effects. Like, you're fine. And
I don't even think we were told that there were any.
No.
And now there's Yaz commercials being like, did you take Yaz? Because
you might be entitled to financial compensation.
Exactly.
It's crazy. And so, yeah, women also, they don't think about these things until they want to get pregnant, until it's time to just get off birth control. And they try, and they're having like the infertility problems that are going on in this country right now are insane and heartbreaking. And it has to do with men also, like men's fertility, which also has to do with food and microplastics, and all of these things in our environment. But it's just, it breaks my heart that no one is told this. Like, we go on birth control when we're so young. Maybe you're on it for 15 years.
Yeah.
And then you want to have a kid and you're having massive issues.
Right. And people don't talk about, they're starting to, I've started to see conversations about this, but the psychological impact that you can have. And again, this was something that I think we all knew in a very amateur way. In, high school and college, you would hear people say, oh my gosh, this birth control made me psycho. And so I had to, or it made me depressed, or I was crying all the time. And so I switched. And all of us were like, oh yeah, yeah. And without thinking, oh my gosh, that is a horrible thing to go through.
Yeah. Young women that are put on birth control, like teenage women, are 70% more likely to be prescribed antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. 70% more, which is insane. And that was kind of my experience as well. I went on one, went on another, went on a third, and I was so depressed. Like I'd never experienced anything like it. I'm a very upbeat person, and I couldn't get off the couch. Like, there was like this inner monologue of just get up, go for a walk, get in the sunshine, like you'll feel better. And I couldn't move.
You couldn't move.
And it was just so, like I said, feeling like a prisoner in your own body, going like, I don't know what's going on. I'm not in control. You feel so detached. And that was the final straw when I felt like depressed. My doctor was like, well, we can put you on this one. I said, no.
Yeah.
I'm just done.
I got to get out of this cycle.
Yeah. And so, the psychological impacts are crazy.
And I've heard Dr. Sarah Hill say that you also may be more likely to be bisexual if you're on the pill, and that it can actually change whom you are attracted to if you are a woman. And I've heard the argument that women may be, and because I can't speak for everyone, but may be more attracted to more feminine men, if men at all, when they are on the pill.
This is true. Yeah, there's data. There's studies. When I say this, a lot of women don't believe me, even men. They come at me in the comments. I'm like, I can send you the studies. One of the ones they did is they showed women on birth control, like pictures, basically like AI mock-ups, right, of men, and then they slightly feminize their features. So one, they look masculine, they look like a man, right? The other one, slightly more feminine features. Women on birth control chose the men with more feminine features. And not only that, there's something called the t-shirt test, sweaty t-shirt test. You can look this one up too. And they had a bunch of different men work out in these sweaty t-shirts, right? Put them in bags and have women smell them, essentially smelling their pheromones.
Oh my goodness.
This is so crazy.
I have not heard this.
Oh my gosh, this one's so fascinating. And they had women on birth control and not on birth control do this. And the women that were on birth control chose the scent of men who were more genetically similar to them, which you don't want. For the most viable, like resilient offspring, you want someone with the DNA furthest from you to give them the best chance.
My goodness.
Women chose men with DNA more similar. And I've also gotten messages from women like, I got off birth control and I broke off my engagement. Like I got off birth control and I like was so not attracted to my fiance. Like I've gotten messages that are like, Emily, I almost got married. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Too much. Oh
So this
my
is crazy.
gosh, your birth
Yeah.
control is making you gay.
So,
It's making you have maybe, I don't know, bad choice of men. Not always, but that is crazy that it would change your attractions that much potentially. But it makes sense. People don't realize how much our hormones can affect us.
Yeah.
And affect our minds, affect how we think, and how we think kind of can form our reality.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it affects the decisions that we make, which then does inform our reality. And people don't realize how much. Yeah. But, you know, more people are talking about this now, which I'm encouraged by.
It makes me so happy. Yeah. Yeah. It's emerging now. I feel like it's kind of trendier to talk about hormones and balancing your hormones. And I'm like, this is like the base level stuff that we should be talking about. Like, we can't keep playing God with our cycle, right? Like, oh, I don't want my period. I think a lot of young women athletes are also put on it so that they don't have a period, so it doesn't mess with their performance.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot. And it's just, for what? Like, is that worth it?
Yeah.
It's not.